here is what my goal here in this hour, when I'm trying to do less, little 50 minutes, is what I want to walk you through is a little bit of the process that I have found I have iterated into. We've walked this through with a number of people. Many of these ideas have been utilized, have been contributed by others. So I can't say like, this is all my stuff at all. This is an amalgamation of many different people's processes. And so the beginning portion of this will really be kind of a little bit more geared to grad school. I know there's a number of people who are from the tech community or other sectors around the country that have been laid off, and a lot of this process will also be applicable and hopefully helpful for all of you. So to start this off is you've heard a little bit, I've had a lot of jobs, and what has happened is my wife points out I really can't hold on to a job for very long. So I bounce around a lot. And so one of the things, especially when you're bouncing around different industries or going in and out of government, this is how do you figure out what your next role is? Like, you've had this role and you kind of go into this different area. How do you figure this out? And so this is a little bit of that process that happened for me. As a graduate student myself, I went straight from University of Maryland, where I was a graduate student. Then I got my faculty position at University of Maryland. Then I went into the Department of Defense, and then I went to Silicon Valley. Each of those transitions not only was weird, it was really, really painful. To put in this perspective, it took me 6 months to get my job in Silicon Valley. And this is despite having unbelievable privilege and access, because I grew up in the Bay Area. And I had people like Sergey Brin, the founder of Google's dad, on my thesis committee, and all these other people. And it still took me 6 months, because I was arguing that there was this thing that was important that we should all pay attention to, of using data in this novel way. And everyone was like, that's cute. Maybe one day that'll be relevant. That obviously turned into data science. So here's a little bit of the things that I kind of learned the hard way. First, it's okay. I mean, the most important thing to acknowledge is the career process to figure out your role and what to do is really, really painful. And so just important to acknowledge up front that it's a mess and it's hard, and it's a lot of emotion, because it is tied fundamentally to our wallet and our career and our stature and expectations from our peers, from our friends, family members, potentially a spouse or a partner. All of that is wrapped up into this. And so it's okay if you're feeling lost. The first step of this is honestly to accept that you are lost. And that's the beginning of it, is that you don't know what's going on. The next part of this is to realize, what is the purpose of grad school? Part of the purpose of grad school fundamentally is to shake up your thinking. You're taking all sorts of weird classes, you're learning things, you're being exposed to new ideas. You're not supposed to be the same person that you were when you came in. It's okay if you totally go into some random different direction. One of the beautiful things of grad school is, the way I think of it is, you have gotten all these new tools you've developed. You've gotten all this stuff, but you haven't really been able to put it into practice. And so you have this expectation where everyone's saying right now, like if here at the Kennedy School, they're like, oh, you went to Harvard. You went to the Kennedy School. Clearly you have figured this out, and your first job out of here must be something kick-ass. If you've been at a company or something place special, you're supposed to be at this amazing place where, you know, everyone's been talking about you, and now you're like, well, where am I supposed to go from here? If you've been in public policy, you know, the classic one is like, if you've been at the White House, everyone's like, you only leave the White House once. Where do you go from there is what defines your career and who you are. That's all absolute, I'll be very blunt, crap. That is not how it works. In fact, if you look at people, most of the time, the first job that they take out of one of the things doesn't go so well. It's the job after this that actually goes well. And so here's how to make it actually a little bit better in that process. So the first part of this is, let's also recognize, as we're talking about it, imposter syndrome. We all think like, hey, we're supposed to have these accolades or all these skills or all these new things. And it feels like feel like you're a fraud, you're a fake. And so just understand that there's imposter syndrome. It's okay to have it, acknowledge it. Let's move on from it. So as I mentioned, no one's figured this out. It's a maze. The best part about this you can be whatever you want, because when somebody is a few years from now, they're like, wow, they went from the HKS to do that. Yeah, that was a super smart move. At the time, they're going to be like, crazy, doesn't know what they're doing. That's okay. This is the way it kind of goes, is that you get to be whatever you want. You get to write your own story. The biggest thing of this is I think of this as literally a carousel. Where you got on, maybe you want to get off the same spot you started. That's okay. Maybe you want to try something else. Part of this is an exploration. So let me just jump into the process. And this is really a 4-step process. The first portion of this process, perhaps the most important part, is that you really have to digest what you've done. You've got to you've done all this time here or at a company. You've done all this hard work. You've had no time to really look up and process what's happened. So you really have to kind of take this time and really think about it. This is, for those that do yoga, this is Savasana, right? Like, why do you do this at the end of yoga? To give yourself time to integrate, to bring everything together. For those that do something very different than yoga, think barbecue, you let the meat rest. Why? Because otherwise all the juices flow out right away if you cut it. Okay? So you have to take this time to do deep reflection. Do it from yourself, from others. So one of the things I would strongly encourage all of you to do is to go talk to other people and get the equivalent of a 360. Because when you're coming out of this process, what are you really good at? You can ask your mom or dad, but that's probably only one-sided view. Ask your friends, and say, they may tell you stuff like, hey, you know what? You're really amazing at these end things. You actually suck at these other things. It's really important to figure out where your real strengths are. One of the things that I see that happens all too often is people talk about what do they like about jobs, what do they not like about jobs. I would tell you to think about this very differently. The question I ask people when I interview them is I always ask them, what gives you energy? What takes away your energy? Just because you may be good at something doesn't mean it gives you energy. It may take away energy. And what I am trying to do when I hire somebody is I am trying to figure out where can I put them in a role with people who are going to amplify their energy. And I'm finding complementary people where the things that take away the energy, somebody else on the team is going to take that extra load up. So I'll be super tactical here. One of the things some people here, some people online know, I am unbelievably bad at scheduling. I am totally bad at scheduling or doing any process of those things. It absolutely takes my energy away. And I know this sounds totally stupid. So I always have to find some kind of infrastructure to help make sure I'm scheduling, I'm getting to all the people, I'm taking care of all my responsibilities. Something that gives me energy is actually starting my day with the problems that take the energy away from other people. In other words, firefighting. So what I'm looking for when I take on roles or I take on certain problems is I'm like, how much of this am I going to be able to take that pain away from others? But what I need to do for that is I need to have some support structure of this stupid kind of problem that I have. I'm really bad at scheduling and other things. And I know this sounds super trivial, but I'm making it intentionally trivial because that's the level of detail you should get into for what gives you energy, what takes you energy. Not sure what gives you energy, what takes you energy? Ask your friends, ask your peers, ask your colleagues. Ask them, hey, when I'm working with you, what do you see as the things that really I light up about? What are the things that, man, I just really, you just see me deflate. Get that list. Write down that concrete list. Do not just take these processes when you're doing this as something that you are just sort of listening to. You need to write them down. You need to have your top end list, 3, 5 things that give you energy, things that take away your energy, because that will help structure you for when you're thinking about roles. Let me just mention one other thing about this digestion of things. When you do this look back and you're doing this process of really understanding, be crisp. Write down things that you would keep doing. You just came out aggressive. What are things that you want to keep doing in your life that you've gone through this process? Would you want to keep reading a bunch of research things? Would you want to stop doing them? Basically, a start, stop, keep exercise. What are those areas of your life of things that you have learned that you need to do? Maybe as you do this, you realize like, hey, you know what? I need a team like this around me. I like problems like this. How are you going to get enthused? What makes you successful? What prevented you from being successful? Do a very detailed assessment of this. This process of that deep reflection may take several days. Take a couple hours, reflect on it, look at it again. Don't skimp on this. And then when you have it, show it to somebody. Show it to somebody you trust to get their opinions on it. When I came out of, even this last time, when I came out of federal service, the Obama administration, I wrote these things down. I had these things. I actually showed them to Secretary Carter. And I said, hey, this is what I took away. And here's what I think is important, what's not, what gives me energy, what's not. And he looked at it and with a very critical eye, pointed out like, hey, I don't think you're thinking about this correctly. I think you want to think about these things differently. Try this, don't try this. He gave me so much feedback that it was like a super powered mentoring session. Was it painful? Oh my gosh, it was so painful to talk about myself and have him giving me this version of introspection about myself. But that opportunity for someone to give you that kind of feedback is critical. I don't just didn't do it just with him because he's he's the luminary that he is. I did it with my spouse, where I always get a lot of good feedback. I've actually done it with my kids, where I get sometimes not so helpful feedback. But the point here is find people who are your own personal board. This is the process how you are going to figure out who are your board of advisors, your board of directors, your own personal group. The people who give you the best feedback on this, those are the people who are going to be on your life journey as your board of directors. They're going to be the ones who are going to know about, and they're the ones who are going to say, hey, maybe you need to work on this, or maybe they're the ones that are going to say, hey, you know what, I saw that, I'm going to help you out this different way. Next, a plan for a plan. It's amazing how good we are at trying to say for a job, we're like, and then I'll go do this, and then I'll go do this, and then I'll make billions of dollars, and then I'll take over the world. And then, we kind of do all this forward planning. What I think is a better model is the inverse. Actually, let me start with it. So what we're going to do is, actually, I'll talk about that in a second. So plan for a plan. We are going to figure out how to do a plan for a plan. And that actually starts with the second step here, which is a mission statement. How many people here have their own personal mission statement? Good. One. Kind of two. 1.5. Maybe 3/4. We got 1 3/4 here. How many people here have worked for an institution with a mission? Almost all people here have worked for a company or an organization with a mission. So here's some examples of mission statements. I can tell you the mission statement on LinkedIn without even looking at it. To connect the world's professionals, help make them more successful and productive. Why do I know that? Not only was I there when we wrote it, but we wrote it with such deep intent. Why? Because when anybody goes off to do something, we want that always in the back of their mind of what they're going to do. The mission statement for Devoted Health is to build a healthcare plan that takes care of everyone like their own loved ones. There are so many mission statements out there. If you don't have your own mission statement, how do you know what's most important for you? So take a giant sheet of paper and stare at it and write down mission statements. Then do it again, do it again, do it again, and keep editing it until it is sharp. Some of you will likely get the opportunity. I expect actually many definitely those out there also as entrepreneurs, you're going to have to write a mission statement at some point for your company, for your organization. If you can't write it for yourself, how can you write it for somebody else? So think about what yours is. My personal one is to make the world a better place for our kids and our kids' kids. It took me an unbelievably painful long time of trying out different mission statements. Something that yours that will fit on a coin. Something that you could put and say, like, this is how I think. When you wake up in the morning, start with that mission statement. When you end the day, end with that mission statement. Doesn't mean everything you do during the day has to tie to it. But what is your true north going to be? And try out different ones. That one of mine of make the world a better place for your kids and kids' kids allows me to say, what am I doing in government today? What am I doing in our local community today? What am I doing as building companies or other things? All of it ties to that. And that allows me to kind of keep balance in there. So try out different ones. And then as you're sharing it, and you're going to see a theme of this, is always share these things to talk yourself through them, see what it fits, see if it resonates with people. My first one I wrote, oh my gosh, I wish I had it because it was so bad. And I showed it to people and it was like a paragraph long. They were like, it's not a college essay. The mission statement. I had to write one I had the opportunity and privilege of writing one for the US Chief Data Scientist role. The mission statement is to responsibly unleash the power of data to benefit all Americans. Very carefully chosen. That mission statement was adjudicated by some of the most powerful people in government at the time to make sure we had it nice, compact, tight, but also establishment in office. So some things that we chose very carefully, intentionally in there is to choose in that mission statement to responsibly unleash. We put the word responsibly in there to benefit all Americans. All was chosen very specifically. So every day, for however on out, until someone changes that mission statement, that is what the office and the team start with their day and what they end with at the end of the day. So find your mission statement and try it out. Inverse operator. Back to the inverse operator. This is what I want to talk about of walking forward versus walking backwards. This process is what I encourage you to do. And it's this was taught to me by my dad. Interestingly, Secretary Carter also has this as a technique. Is don't plan forward. Don't say, okay, I start here today. Where do I go from HKS? I want you to pick 5 jobs 5 years out in the future. Pick 5 jobs, any random ones. Could be, and this is an experiment of play. This is a time to play and try out things. And so I'll do very specific. When I was a grad student, and I was like, what do I do in life? What do I do when I grow up? I picked 5. One was, I was like, oh, I kind of like these ideas of being able to help out organizations. So I was like, I think that's called a management consultant. And so I was like, I should go, maybe I want to be running or an important person in one of these management consulting firms. I was like, I didn't know what that meant. I was like somebody who does something important there. Then I said another one was, oh, maybe I want, a lot of my friends were going to Wall Street at the time because they were quantitative, they were using computers, they were using a lot of finance techniques. It's like, maybe I want to go be at a hedge fund. Another one was, oh, I want to be, very technological. I want to be the vice president of this technology in a big tech firm kind of thing, like a large company with, 20,000, 100,000 kind of people. Another one was like be a founder. So and then another one was like be a partner at a place like where like a lot of creative design happens. And so I had these 5. What you do then is what's the job before that job? And there's a set of jobs before that job. What's the job before those jobs? And go backwards from there. If you want to be a Supreme Court judge, you know exactly what all the jobs are before that. In fact, you know all the way probably down to where you had to go to preschool. Mostly, you can do this inverse operator for all the kind of roles. What is that telling you? It's telling you the checklist you need of skills and things you need to know to actually execute and get into that position. So the most important thing of this is it's starting to shift your job search, and rather than just a concrete rifle shot, or a very specific, trying to go after one very specific thing, to making it testable. So for example, in my case, I was like, oh, I want to be this management consultant. So I finally started to ask friends, talk to people, and I got introduced to a person who was a partner at one of these very large management consultant firms. When I talked to them, they said, oh yeah, why don't you come interview? And so I talked to them, I went through this process, and I hated every single moment of it. And it was like my top dream thing. I was like, I thought this was going to be amazing. I went through it and I was like, oh, I hate everything about it. From the moment we started going through the case study, everything. And I thought, why do I hate it? What is it about this that I really don't like? And for me personally, it was, I need to own the problem. I can't just describe the problem. Ownership and execution was something very intrinsic and deeply important to me. I didn't know that until I had gone through the process. Another one was on the hedge fund side. I went to that. I went and talked to a bunch of friends who were working and doing all these problems. And I was like, these are great math problems. This is hard technical work, everything. And I just wasn't motivated by that kind of industry. I just wasn't interested in that financial industry. I was like, oh, this is a bummer. I thought I'd really like this too. Kind of feel like one of these childhood books, like of like, you know, the porridge is too hot, porridge is too cold. Like, but I kind of went on. One of the ones that became really also important to me was as I talked to people in companies at startups, one of the things I found is that most startups couldn't utilize me. Why couldn't I be utilized by startups early on? Because every person in the organization that they had needed to be hands-on coder, like because they just didn't have the money. They didn't have the capital to bring someone like me on board. And I realized, but the job before that startup could be, you know, at a fast-moving company, that had latitude to hire people. Maybe it did have flexibility to bring people in. I also looked at that VP role, that big tech company. And I thought, oh, wait a second. You could also start here at this middle of this early stage kind of tech company, and I could move into that role. So there was an intersection point between two of the areas that were interesting. So now it gave me a thesis to make this testable. And so I was able to go talk to all these companies that were mid-stage, kind of fast growing at the time to see where that goes. And to make this very concrete, one of the things that happen when you do this is really getting to that Pasteur kind of quote, luck favors the prepared mind. That's what you're going for because you want to see this. So as I've kind of gone through, and I'll explain this. So I landed at eBay. And at eBay, then I sort of was realizing like, we're not going to turn the corner. Company's going to stall out. And I had become really close friends with this guy named Reid Hoffman, who had started a company called LinkedIn. And in that process, he said, hey, you should come to LinkedIn. Simultaneously, I had an offer from another company, not just a guy, but a company who was, they said, hey, would you like to come in and be CTO? And so I told Reid, no, I'm not going to come to LinkedIn, I'm going to go to the CTO. To which both my wife and Reid said, you're an idiot. And I was like, why? Help me understand this. And they both walked me through sort of saying, here's what you're going to learn at LinkedIn that you will not learn at this other startup. You're going to learn how to hire people. It's a fast-moving trajectory. From this, you're going to get all these other skills. You're going to learn how to build a network of people, all these things. And what I realized when they said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the checklist. It maps everything in here. I can go from that to small company. Maybe LinkedIn's going to become a big company. I'm going to be able to go all the different directions. It's like the nexus. It's like the super nexus that allows me to kind of go any direction I want. And it turned out to be true. So do this inverse operator in practice. Now, how do you kind of pick roles? Well, just go do random searches on LinkedIn for kind of crazy, cool things. See what it would be. If you want to be Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Education, you want to be on the National Security Council, you want to run for office, same exercise. Inverse operator. Go backwards. Ask yourself, what are the roles that you have to do before that? Develop the checklist. Find roles that then align with that checklist. And most importantly, make this a testable process as you're going through it. Number 4, write your strategic deck or memo, 5 or 10 years out. I prefer 10 years out, but a lot of people should think about also 5 years out. And so what this is going to start with, it's amazing how many of you can write a memo about an incredibly hard topic. If I give you something that said, hey, how are we going to think about climate change? Or how are we going to think about what investments need to be made in some kind of area of national security or something else, or education policy? You guys can whip it up in hours. You'd be excellent at it. And you'd be ready for it'd be like ready to go for like some high-powered policymaker. It's amazing how terrible we are at writing our own strategic deck. So the way this starts is write down with your mission statement, right? What's your mission statement down? And then write down what should be true in 5 or 10 years. What are the things that should be true at that point? Maybe what you're looking for is to be debt-free. Maybe it's that your family structure is healthy and you're able to pay for your kids' education. Maybe it's that you're ready to run for office. Maybe it's, you're going to be a junior faculty or something else. Pick all those different ones. Then what you need to do is take and separate, create your goals. Create your goals and start putting down the strategies that need to happen for that and the concrete tactics that you need to do to make this happen. Kind of fill that out and start building it out. Then once again, what's the most important thing you need to do here? Review it with trusted advisors. First time I wrote this down and I presented it, of course I presented it to my wife. She shredded it. And she called out all these gaps. She called out all these deficiencies in my thinking. And so I went back and I redid it. I showed it to some other trusted advisors and they said, by the way, that's not a 10-year plan. That's a 5-year plan. I was like, what? How is that I thought I was thinking 10 years. They're like, you're not thinking big enough. They're like, we expect you to do these things. There's other ones where people said, oh, I didn't realize that was your goal. I've never seen you write down your goals. We haven't had that conversation. Here's where I know how to help you. When your network starts to see opportunity, now they can plug you in. But you need to make it extremely explicit. And it's okay. Maybe you try this out for a bit and then eventually throw it away and rewrite another one. That's okay. This doesn't have to be a permanent game plan. It's like Google, Docs or PowerPoint or whatever. Change it. Change it as you see it. But the most important thing is run it by advisors. So let me walk through a few tactics, as that's the large 4 steps of that's very specifics. Talking about your resume, your CV, or LinkedIn, one of the biggest mistakes I see with everyone is that it's not scannable. Everyone expects me to read it. Who reads actually the college essays? You scan them, right? You kind of go through them real quick. You need your resume to be scannable. And the stuff has to pop out. Because I kid you not, now it's digital, but obviously even before, we would just get stacks of resumes and we're just going through them. We're going through them super fast. It's unbelievably hard to kind of process that. State your objective at the very top, especially at this stage for those that are in grad school. What's your objective? What are you trying to do? Because your resume coming out of a program like this, we're like, I don't know what you want to do. Tell me what you want to do. Don't make me figure it out. For those in industry, where do you want to work? What kind of problems do you want to work on? Be explicit. If you want to be a back-end engineer and you want to work on deep technical things, awesome. You want to work on problems that are interfacing with a customer or a consumer or a user? Tell me that. Don't make me figure it out or interpret what's happening on your resume. Help me out. Tell a story. It's so hard to find a story in this. Tell a story with your resume. Help us understand what's there. And then also make it extraordinarily easy to reference check. So that you're like, oh, at that company? Oh yeah, they went to HKS? Let me call a friend, which is just a text message away, and say, hey, did you know so-and-so? And give me a reference check. Because if they're like, oh, that person was the best thing since sliced bread, you're in right away. Make it super easy for someone on the team to be like, oh, let me call someone right now to see what it is. The ideal format for everything on a LinkedIn line or your resume, whatever you want to use. Specifically, what you did. Well, that's terrible. You did. What you did. Tell me what you did. Why did it matter? What was the impact? Explicitly. I want to know, one sentence, what it was. Why should I care? Why did it matter to you? What did it do? Why did it matter for the company? What was the impact? Impact. You took X to Y. You did something, or it had the following cascading impact. Every single line that you produce should follow some version of that. That is a quintessential way to help make it specific. When you are doing the interview and people are asking what you did, it should follow this format. Most time people tell you what you did and why it mattered. They never tell you the impact. So we're like, was that a big deal? Like maybe 1%. Turns out that was a massive deal because it was really hard. Otherwise, in some places we're like, hey, you did that 100x, you did 100% returns on that, but you were doing it while everything else was scaling massively. You're like, whatever. We need to know context. Interview prep. One of the other biggest mistakes I make. I see. Well, I made two. I'll tell you this. First time I interviewed. Oh my gosh, I was so bad. It's like embarrassing. I didn't know how to interview. How many people here have actually interviewed? Pretty good. How many people have interviewed somebody? Okay, good amount. So you guys are pros at this. Probably not. Interview each other. Create mock interviews. Run yourselves through it. Sounds awkward? Find a partner. Isn't it strange how if we were going to write a paper, we would actually share with each other and be like, hey, criticize this. Yet we're not able to run each other through that interview. Run yourself through an interview. Read each other's CVs, LinkedIn, whatever. Find errors. Proofread each other. Find it. Use this critical lens. And then be really hard on each other in a supportive way. Find a way to really help each other. Be like, hey, during that interview, you say a lot. You don't make eye contact. You kind of speak softly in these portions. All the nuances. I can't read your handwriting when you did this problem on the board. Little things make a big difference in this process. Oh, I'll tell you this quick one. The person I put through the hardest interview, this is at LinkedIn, and I gave them a problem on the board. They did all of it. They thought they had failed it unbelievably badly. They thought this is they did the worst ever. That guy is currently the CEO of LinkedIn. And what was important about it, what people didn't realize is important about it is we are trying to get a thorough assessment of somebody. But because they were so well prepared, they had gone through so much, they were able to show their complete version of themselves. They were able to give us this whole thing. They didn't make us try to figure out what was important about them, what value they had. We were like, oh, this person has all these skills. We can use them here, 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 and here. Let's put them in right now because we know what to do. Here's how we can support them. We know what gives them energy. We know what takes away their energy. All these different pieces. So be really thorough as you're helping each other out. At a minimum, you should go practice with 3 people. Go through interviews with 3 people. Also, one of the benefits by being the interviewer in this format, you are going to learn a lot about what happens in an interview, especially when something goes wrong in the interview. That's also important. How do you put an interview back on track? Build your network. One of the things that, you'll see this as a thematic, make this a team sport. You guys have unbelievable privilege at this point, whether it's here because you're in grad school, you're out there virtually, you've been laid off. You have the ability to raise your hand and say, hey, I need help. People are going to respond to you because you're in this position, because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody out there in the world has been in some form of your shoes. And because you're at this stage, when you ask for help, most likely you're going to get a response. Maybe they're not going to have time, but that's fine, move on, kind of thing. But ask for help. Build your network. The process of building your network starts now. And as you're going through this exploration process, build your network. Even if those roles don't fit, stay in touch with people. Keep them updated on how it goes, where you landed. Some of the most important connections I made were during my discovery process as I went through this journey of figuring out what to do. I met all sorts of interesting people. We stayed in touch. Many of them I worked with many years later on a different project. Some have become some of my closest friends, even though they didn't hire me. I'm not bitter. But it's always really important to build that network. And if you're not connecting and staying in touch with each other now, especially as you've either gone through this process of grad school or you've gone through the process of a company, your alumni network is your most powerful asset. You've probably heard of these organizations like the ex-Googlers. It's all the people formerly of Google. They help each other out. There's the one around Uber. There's the one around LinkedIn. They call it LinkedIn Mafia or the PayPal Mafia. Think about like how powerful those groups are, especially when they kind of go off and do their other things. People create listservs just to keep each other updated on what they're doing. All of those things are really important. When you talk to somebody, you network with somebody, you meet somebody, come away with an ask. Could I send you my resume? Could I send you my LinkedIn post? Well, I'd love for you to review it. Here's some of the things I'm looking for. Would you be willing to introduce me to one person, or would you give me a willing to think about it and send me 3 companies or organizations I should talk to? Whenever you meet somebody, you need to come away with an ask. You have to put in an ask to do this. That's courtesy of my wife, because when I started doing this, she's like, "You're a terrible network." I was like, "I thought it was pretty good. I was walking around the room. I was doing this awkward thing, talking to people, handing out business cards that I made up with my own fancy logo." She's like, "What are you walking away with? How are you going to stay in touch with them? You gave them a card. You think they're going to talk to you?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a good point." Come out with an ask, and then iterate, and just keep following up and trying this over and over again. You're not going to get it right the first time. I'll share one quick one about the power of networks. After I left LinkedIn, people always love to talk about successes. People forget that I had a $41 million failure on a photo sharing app. Not exactly proud to say that, but it's true. One of the first calls I made was to a friend named David Z. David Z is a very famous investor behind LinkedIn, Facebook, a number of other companies. Really, really great guy. And I called him up, and he took his call while he was traveling. He was about to do the IPO of a company. He had no time for me, but he took the time to talk to me. And I said, "Hey, here's what's going on." He gave me a ton of advice. And I was like, "David, you're giving me all this help. Like, I'm so grateful that you're helping me through this. I'm emotionally totally spun. I don't know what to think about. It's very high press, visibility. I'm not thinking clearly." And he said, "Oh, you've done more than enough to help us. You've helped us over the years with the network. You've been a team player. We're more than happy to return the favor." Take that attitude, because when it happens and you need help and you raise a flag, people will be there to support you. What is the right job? Some job rubrics. I get asked this all the time. Like, how do I pick my job? First, don't focus on the dollars. Everyone focus on dollars. Oh, okay. I got to wrap up real fast. Okay, I'm going to go quick. If everyone focuses on dollars, that's a mistake. Focus around people who are awesome, you can learn from, laugh with, and cry with. That alumni network is going to be your biggest advantage. I tell people all the time how much you're willing to pay for grad school versus if you were just sitting on part of the PayPal Mafia team, where out of that came Tesla, Solar City, LinkedIn, YouTube. The list goes on and on and on. Think about all those things with that environment. If you were part of Secretary Carter's early team when he was at the DoD, and those people had basically jobs that were brutal, paid very little, you were part of that team. You'd go, it's a rocket ship. 2, don't allow yourself to be put in a box. People are going to try to put you in a box by labeling. Don't allow that to happen. Your job is to prevent that from happening. 3, it's not about this job you're landing. Set yourself up for the job after this job. Everything about this job is for the next job. 4, find jobs that force you to learn at 3x 7x. What do I mean by that? The average job for every 1 year is 1 year of experience. 3x jobs for every 1 year, you've gotten 3 years of experience. 10x jobs, you're barely going to survive because 10 years in 1 year is painful. And I mean, your body, you will get sick. You cannot sustain that. There are times in your life you may need to take half-x jobs or quarter-x jobs. You're taking care of someone that's loved one that's sick. You have other responsibilities. You may be in a situation where you're not ready for that. You're burned out. That's okay. What you want to generally find, especially at the stages for grad school coming out, you should be at a minimum of 3x if you can, closer to 7x. For every 1 year, you're getting 7 years. When I was taking my job at PayPal, I was looking for 3x jobs. I was sort of sitting a little 1 foot in PayPal, 1 foot in Skype, 1 foot in eBay. So by definition, every 1 year, I was getting 3 years of experience around all the different companies. And that cumulative effect meant my network was across 3 different large companies. And the learning and architectural designs and the technical aspects were across all those companies. So I was learning at a phenomenal rate. LinkedIn, the same way. Life in the high-level policy jobs, you don't have a choice whether you like it or not. They're all 10x jobs. You're just getting force-fed. And then remember, one of the most important lines I got when I was in, this is actually from government, the first time I was in policy in the Department of Defense, out of chaos comes opportunity. Find jobs where there's enough chaos. Because if you're in jobs where there's chaos and it's constructive, it's not some kind of environment that is toxic, it's a constructive chaos opportunity, people can't put you in a box. You are going to take on all sorts of different roles. They can't just say, oh, you're just that person. Because they'll be like, you're alive. Can you do this? And suddenly, before you know it, you have like 10 other jobs. And you get exposed to so much awesomeness. Be that person where you're in that right kind of time, an opportunity. And then when it's combined with that network, that reverse exercise, the inverse operator, you will then pick up jobs that help prepare you for the job after the job. Finally, as I mentioned, make this a team sport. As I want to reiterate, this is frustrating. This is tiring. It's emotionally taxing. It's hard. That's okay. Don't go alone. Do not suffer in silence. Make this a team sport. Be a good teammate also. See somebody else who's suffering, who's struggling. Ask them if you can help with their process. Have better ideas than these? Cool. Share them. Share them with me. Share them with others. This is the way we all progress together. Appendix. All right, we got a time for a few questions. I know I kind of gave a ton. The question? Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, thank you for your talk. You talked about this notion of what gives you energy and what takes away energy. And I'm struggling with this idea that what gives you and takes away energy, how much of that is fixed and how much of that changes, right? And particularly as the world adapts, there might be things that I need to adapt to that are not energy giving, but I still need to adapt because that's where a field is moving or that's where the skills are moving. So how much do you see this innate energy thing as sort of fixed versus how much of it is malleable?
Yeah, great question. So I think the question, just to summarize it real quick for those that are online, is, times are changing. And as you evolve, as the world evolves, how do you manage this thing of what gives you energy takes away your energy? Is that about right?
Yeah, because how much of it is fixed versus how much of it is flexible?
How much is static versus dynamic?
Yeah.
So I don't want to shy away from this at all, where it's like, there are times to just grind. And there are times just to put in the energy and just slog it out. And there's a value in doing that. Most things, people think startups are all glory and unicorns and rainbows. I tell them most of the time it sucks. It's like terrible. It's hard, painful work. That's what it takes to get it done so you can get to the next step. Do it with intention is the part. Like one of the things that is there, in any startup is like, do I have a scheduler? Do I have anything? No, there's nobody else. Do I have an HR person? No, it's me. It's like, I got to do it all. There's nobody else. So my job at that point is I am going along with intention, knowing that I need to fire myself out of this job and find somebody else who can support it. Also, to your point, industry is changing, worlds are changing massively as we're doing this. And so we need to stay evolving with it. And as you're doing it, you get to ask yourself, like, am I getting, not just having fun with it, but getting energy from this? Do I find myself going to night thinking about this? Do I wake up in the morning thinking about this? What does it take for me to have that kind of mentality? That's really where I'm going with it. If you come out of a thing where you're just constantly like, just sapped, and you just need to sit down and be away from the problem because it's just taking you out, that's what I mean by it's taking away your energy. Then you need to find something else where you're just like, you come out of that, you're like, I could do that again. I'm fired up about that. That's really what you're looking for versus the fun. Because you can have fun, but it's taking energy away. And that's where people make the miss, because that's the wrong role. Like, or it's not a sustainable role, to your point.
Yeah. Sorry, really quickly, we have a chat box online as well. So we're going to take one in the room and one online.
Okay, we'll trade off.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. So the first question we have is, DJ, would you amend any of this advice for some of us who are mid-career, but took an educational pause and now looking to pivot?
I'm so glad you brought this up. So I absolutely recommend all of this for mid-career. In fact, in many ways, more so. Because when you're coming out of a mid-career, especially for women. So women coming out of motherhood and have taken time off, or dads who have been also taking on those rearing responsibilities, or something that's happened during COVID, those kind of issues, it's really important to go through this. Why? Because when you're going through this, everyone has put you already in a box and written you off. And so going through this helps your network also know what you want and how to be utilized. And I have seen this happen time and time again, especially to caregivers, where they have been sidelined and people don't realize the true skills they have. One of the things that's important is to build that sort of allies around you in mid-career who are going to then also be your reference network to tell them, like, you guys must hire this person. I saw this up close with my wife, even going through this. It was a network who basically were like, you guys are getting a deal to hire her because she can do all this stuff. She's done it before. And people are like, really? And it's amazing when somebody comes into one of those roles, especially mid-career, and suddenly they're like, wow, this person is so versatile. We can use them in all situations. You're like, duh, did you see all the stuff they did? They're super experienced. But people forget that. People develop a naivete around that.
And then I was going to say, for the sake of time, we might do two in the room.
Okay, because I'm gonna hang out here for a little bit longer.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we'll go here. Okay, we'll go here and then we'll go.
Just connected to that.
Can I give you this mic?
Oh, yeah,
People
even
can
better.
hear and just speak into the mic.
For people, is there anybody that you hired who was transitioning from a different country and maybe with years of experience? And if you did hire them, what set them apart? What is it that people who are transitioning into a new market, into a new country, what can they use as an asset?
Yeah. This is a great one too. It's like, I think, well, the first one on hiring people internationally, the first challenge is, can we make it work in the time period that it worked? And that's more of the questions of legal structure. And do we have the ability to? One of the ones that I have found historically, especially like a lot of us, as we're building companies, organizations, we have a blind spot internationally. And so I need people on the team needs to look like the community we're building for, or if we're doing policy, I need the team to represent the people who are going to be served by this. That means we have diversity in all different dimensions. And to do that, I need people from those backgrounds. How do you communicate that to people? It is a harder lift when you're international. It is a harder lift for those that are out there on H-1B right now as you're going through this. We have to acknowledge that. What you need to do, and the way to do that is, again, the network. Because when somebody's like, hey, I worked with this person just gets the stuff done, punches way above their weight, that is always the definitive mark. People want to know when you're hiring or working with somebody that this person is just going to make life easier. That when stuff goes sideways, as a manager, I don't have to go, oh, crap, look at all this stuff happens. I'm like, oh, they already picked it up. They're ahead of me. You want your team to be ahead of you. And if you can showcase those skills that you are going to outpace me, you're going to be able to pick up the team, carry the load. More, that's even better. Like that's what I want out of a team, because that's going to push us to be more effective and better overall. But part of this is also, and some of the things that are also important that this brings up is if you're coming internationally, you need to do an even more thorough job on your interview prep. English skills, literacy, being able to communicate, all of these things, whether we like it or not, we need to be aware that people have their own internal hangups. And what happens during an interview process is you're going to have a dialogue with a one-on-one. What you don't get to see is the conversation that happens when the team gets together and you're not there to be like, oh, no, you misunderstood me. You didn't interpret. You need to give that most collective version of yourself that helps showcase that. And so be even more intentional about running through the interview process, because the small hangups are a reason. Don't give someone a reason to reject you on a false pretense. International, or what are we doing? Okay.
DJ, last October in your blog post commemorating Secretary Carter, you made a point around his passion. So a lot of us are in a situation like, do we choose a job that is societally sexy, or do we pursue something that we're more passionate about? Can you talk more about that conundrum?
Yeah, that is exactly this. Tactics versus strategy. So something like I talk to people about all the time is like they want to take a certain role or a certain job. And I'll just be very blunt. The number of people I had to tell who wanted to take a job in this administration that they can't right now. Because what I said is your tactic based on where you are in family life means we need to find a way for you to pay off your loans so that you can then take on this job. Or we have to make sure you're financially in a place you can do that. So separating, saying, no, we want you in public service. We want you in your passion area. Okay, here's the tactic. But let's ensure that you're not going to get so swallowed up by this tactic that becomes your whole life. We need to stay true to the mission statement. And how is this going to tie together? Those are the kind of things like that how you keep your passion alive with your strategic framework versus the tactics. And some of those tactics might be, you know what, you can't take on this role because you're responsible for caregiving duties. You need to spare it, like you cannot, geography may be an issue. You need to live in the same place. Maybe you're taking care of elderly patients or parents. All of that needs to be in this framework, in there. And so it's easy for us to really think myopically about only our career without the commitments that we have to family, to other kind of aspects of life, and put that all in there. I'll be very explicit. One of my goals, one of my lanes here is to make sure that my family is well taken care of. What does that mean? What are my responsibilities as a spouse and a partner? What are my responsibilities as a parent? Emotionally, financially, all of these things. All of that has to fit in here. I have all those things built out, but what is my eye on the prize? What am I trying to do at the end of the day? Make the world better for our kids and their kids' kids. That could be policy. It could be through industrial efforts. It could be through academic efforts. But it allows me to kind of shape and structure those questions around passion.
Okay, wonderful. We have another one online. DJ, you recommended using your personal board of advisors. How do you start to build that from scratch? Or if you've been remote for a while and isolated, how do you rebuild it?
Great. So the way you do it is the super awkward conversations of, hey, I would love some help. And I kid you not, I need some help. Saying you need help is not a weakness. It is not a weakness. It is a sign of strength and taking something that we want as humans to do. We want to help each other. Reach out to each other and say, I need help. I'd love to walk you through my thinking. That board of advisors, like this is the same thing with mentors. People are like, can you be my mentor? I think that's not how it works. you end up being a mentor because you keep engaging with the person. They keep talking to you. You don't sign a contract. It's like, hey, are we going steady with each other? But like that's just sort of weird, right? Like you want to talk about like you want to reach out, and the people that sort of are the most helpful and the people that you feel are the most intrinsic, you will keep building that rapport with. And as you build your rapport, that naturally becomes your board of advisors. Those become your mentors because they are committed to being on the journey with you. And similarly, you should be doing the same for others at this point. Even if you're in grad school, there are plenty of undergrads or high school kids who could value your time and energy. You want to do one more there, or
I was gonna say, how many more do you want to take? Are you?
we can keep going until how long do I have?
We have the room until 3:30. So
Yeah, I'll go. And if you have to leave, you should leave. It's okay. I will not take offense. I'll just remember your face. That's right.
Sorry, here, let me give you the mic. It's just so people in Zoom can hear you.
Thank you so much. This is like awesome and fired up. You talk about mentors. So I'm one of those people that's like midway pivot shift. I think about the mentors that I've had before I came here. They were sort of very medical. They were great for the line that I was in. And now I'm looking to shift. And so it's like, again, like resetting that. What is the role of like mentors that have known you for a long time? They know your personality and they knew you in one capacity. They still have very vested interests. Like I still meet with them regularly, but how do they fit in with where you're going?
Yeah, this is a super good one. Like what happens when you take a hard right turn? And then especially when they may be disappointed also. They may have had a certain aspirational view for what you were supposed to do. And they're really confused. Bring them along the journey. Help them understand where your thinking is and why you're there. That may go sideways on you. Some of them may just be flat out disappointed. And that's okay. That's okay. If that's the case, it's not your fault that they're disappointed. That's on them. This is your life. And then you just kind of move on from that. Don't be surprised that many of them will not only be along your journey, but they may have their own weird worlds that actually align. They'll be like, oh, wow, want to do that? I had no idea because I've been doing some of that. Especially as we live in a world that is so multi and interdisciplinary now, people are all over the place. The number of times where I have talked to a person, especially in tech or other things, and they were like, oh, actually, I have this side hustle where I'm doing this. I'm like, what? You're doing that? You're working on those problems? I'm like, I had no idea. And they do something so cool and so exciting. We're like, forget all this other conversation. I like clearly this is giving you energy. This is an exciting idea. Go off and do this. I'll give you another version of this. Reid Hoffman, just because Reid and I were talking about this not too long ago. Reid Hoffman, after PayPal was off on vacation, he was just trying to be like, hadn't had a vacation in a long, long time. He was out kind of visiting a friend in Australia, and he was talking about exactly what you're talking about. Kind of like got from philosophy to doing a startup where people were like, what's going on here? Trying to understand what's he going to do next. He talked to a friend, his friend, a kind of advisor friend, said right away, you need to go do that right now. And if you don't go do this right now, you're going to miss the opportunity. We literally got on a plane, came back, got some friends together, and started writing out the plan for LinkedIn. Literally, that's that quintessential moment. I can't tell you how many versions of that I have seen, like over and over again. I will also tell you the number of times this has happened in policy. Some of you may know this story from Ash Carter, Secretary Carter and myself is a version of that. Sort of just showing up, being there at the right time, and then suddenly being able to work together on a wide array of problems. And I think if Ash was here right now and I told him I was working on devoted health, initially he'd be like, what? Why are you doing that? We're supposed to work on national security problems. And then I explained to him why I thought this problem was. He's like, okay, you can go do that for a while, but let's also work on this. And we figured out how to make it an and, not an or. And so we were able to kind of say together, and I was like, well, we're building the company here in Waltham. Well, if it's in Waltham, why don't we, like when I fly out here to the company, why don't we always just go grab coffee or dinner or work together? That's how we were able to kind of make it that kind of overlap where we were able to kind of stay working together on those things.
So we're just gonna take two online. So the first one is any advice on moving into government roles from industry? And the second one is the idea that our careers and our lives are nonlinear. How does one know when to step back from a 10x to 3x role? What can be perceived as going backwards to going forward? Any thoughts or guidance?
Yeah, so the first, let me say is there's no such thing as going backwards. That assumes like, there's just different, like you just take on different roles. And for the last, after being in the role for the Obama administration, one of the important things for me was to literally take a 0.1x job because I was so mentally burned out. I was so tired. I just wasn't okay. By the way, after I left LinkedIn to do that first startup, I was too tired. I didn't have it. And I made too many critical errors as we were trying to build that first company. And because it was there, I put things in jeopardy as a result. So you need to know where to step back. I also had a lot of responsibility and commitments I owed my family. I'd just not been able to give them the time I needed. So I needed to step back and dial that back. Some of that was by walking through some of this process. I did this process. Everything that I've talked about, I've done many, many times over. And I try to do it every year or so, just writing it down and sketching it and asking like, is this updated? Is this correct? Especially as I fill this out, like I filled this out like, oh, I'm that old now? Wow, the kids are that old? Is this right? Like, what do the kids need? What do I need? What does my spouse and partner need? All of that kind of gets tied together. Sometimes a 3x, like many times that beginning stage of a startup is like 0.5x because it's just, unless you're the coder and just going jamming. For everyone else, it's like, it's actually slow until customers show up. Like then you don't have anything. So people mistake it. In advice going into the government. So there's the beauty of things nowadays is there's so much good stuff if you're coming from tech. There was just this tech open house equivalent that was done with the government and the Tech Talent Project and a number of others to showcase what there is. If you're a technologist, and we're going to be writing more about this and doing more about this hopefully soon, but some of the things that are out there, given how much money the government has to deploy, everyone's seen what happened with the FAA and flights getting grounded. We know we have to upgrade our technological systems at the federal level, state level, the local level. There is so much unbelievable opportunity out there. There are organizations like the US Digital Response. There's organizations like Code for America, a bunch of other ones. And so don't feel like everyone has to go to the United States Digital Service. That can be a great option. There's also a technology transformation service at 18F anyway, I'll remember in a second. But find those opportunities. Is it super easy to come in? No, it gets a little painful. I hope that gets streamlined. But I will tell you something about doing a tour. Like, think of these things as careers. We think of them as long-term investments. Think of it as a tour of duty. You're doing something and you're going to move on. We looked at this quintessentially in the data in LinkedIn. If you look at the number of jobs somebody has or how long they stay in their job in their first 10 years of their career, every year it shows that people stay in their jobs less time. Meaning people are hopping around a lot more. That is not just a US phenomenon. It's not a Silicon Valley phenomenon. It is a worldwide phenomenon. And it has continued to trend overall. It is a recession-proof idea. It is net always there. And so get used to the idea of moving around a lot. That's okay. And so be prepared for agility, not long-term being in a role. If that happens, awesome, kudos, good for you. But focus more on the movement of and flexing in and out of roles rather than staying stationary.
I'm gonna be very audacious here.
Yeah,
Can we stay in
what do you
touch
want?
with you and how?
Oh, how do we stay in touch with me? The best way is to follow me on LinkedIn or be on Twitter, which seems to be getting weirder every day. I know I'm going to get through for that. LinkedIn, those type of places. I'm for those that are here at the Belfer or at Harvard Kennedy School. I'm a non-resident fellow here, so I'm involved here. So I'll do that. I think we're trying to think about what office hours look like if I'm around. But honestly, the most important thing is if I'm giving you this stuff, I kid you not, the best thing you can do is rely on each other. I cannot emphasize that enough. Is my version of how, like what I'm sharing with you. I could share, I could walk you through this, I can review your stuff. But if I review your strategic plan, I may give you a bunch of comments, but you know who's going to be A+ at it? The people you've worked with. They're going to be so much better than I am on this. Like walk through it with all the other people and they may say, oh, what about this? What about that? They're going to see the opportunities. Leverage them more so than anything else. I saw this in grad school myself. Who was most helpful? My professors or my grad student colleagues? The grad student colleagues by a mile. Not even close. They're the ones with the most salient networks. They're the ones that had the time to pay attention. Keeping my advisor and all the other people informed, critical because they would see an opportunity. They could be like, hey, do this. Or when I could call on them because I needed help, that was important. But the team that you have here, that's going to be your greatest leverage point. Kathy will back me up on this because she's
I back up everything DJ said.
yeah, she's got through this too. Like it's a team sport. Other,
Thank you.
yeah. Yeah.
Thinking through your several iterations, I'm thinking.
Can we get a mic? So just so people get online can hear you. And then I can hear you too.
With the several times you've done this over and over again, I was thinking, I think the very last slide you showed about teamwork and talking about how your colleagues can help you shape and reshape plans.
Yeah.
So if the thinking is also that you are all thinking towards the same direction, you all want to be competitive, how easy would it be to, I mean, from your experience to, I mean, just to make sure things are working out for you as well as working for the team, because there's always a fear that, well, if we are colleagues, we are heading towards the same direction. Why should I share my idea with you?
Yeah, it's like there's one job opening. Who gets this? Like med school or something, right? So I think taking a team approach for it and celebrating the person that goes into it, if it's not you, is the most important thing. Why? Now you have an inside person and they can build a team. So we have tested this. So we built out a thing a number of years ago called the Data Insight Fellowship Program, where we took people who effectively had technical degrees, PhD, master's level, mostly PhDs, trained them for 6 weeks to be data scientists. And guess what? Like they're very competitive. They're all going into the top, kind of high-paying, very fast-moving jobs, and there were very limited slots. And they all competed because they would do like a presentation, and then the companies might select them. So very, very intense. But you know what the biggest thing was? They hired all their friends. They hired all their friends, and they all went in. The number of times where I have been competitive with somebody where I have worked. I've been the boss for somebody, and then somebody's been my boss. Like Steve Laughlin at Relate IQ. He was a person I mentored for 5-7 years, and then he started Relate IQ. He was going. I was one of the first investors. I went and worked for him. I ran product there. Dylan Field is a better executive and operator than me now. Dylan and I started working when he was 16 years old. He's better than me now. I have no qualms about saying that. That's okay. I think finding a role and people who are around you like that is the right way to succeed. And I think making sure that people have that ethos and you are checking each other to know each other, like we're in this together and we're celebrating, that's the way that goes. But you want to open lanes for each other. And when you're in a role, don't forget about the people who got you there. Do not forget about the people who got you there. And find and use those opportunities to advocate for those, especially who don't have voices inside organizations, because that is a blind spot for most companies, and they need to fix it. I tell you at the top, they want people advocating for each other, and they're frustrated that they can't get the teams to advocate for those others. Sometimes it's because people feel like it's not okay. But in every organization I've built, I have wanted to be able to be like, why aren't you standing up for people that I have an inherent blind spot for? Tell me where my blind spot is for. help me understand what we can do better, and find a way to get them in, and then set them up for success. Too often we bring someone in and they're not set up for success and they fail. Set them up for success because then people go, ooh, we can have more people like that. We should have more of these interesting, unique people. LinkedIn, one of the people we hired literally was a neurosurgeon who just hated neurosurgery. I'm not making this up. Hated neurosurgery and loved data. He came from another country where he was kind of forced into that path of medicine, didn't have a choice, kind of came into the team. And he was so spectacular. We're like, do you have any other friends who are like, don't like medicine anymore? Because you guys bring like a very different perspective that we don't have. Can you bring that in? I'm just going to pick on Kathy because she's like one of these people you bring in into like a policy role, and they're like, you're weird. Like, what is this product management stuff you're talking about? And then she teaches them. They're like, oh my gosh, that works. Do you have any other friends? You seem to know what you're doing because you just keep winning all day long. And then she starts pulling in all new people, and before you know it, she's at the forefront of creating a whole movement around the type of people that should be executing on government policy. Be that kind of person.
That's great. So we actually need to wrap up.
Okay.
Sorry, just for the sake of the room.
Totally.
But thank you so much. And let's give DJ a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone online.